Christy here at Tinker Art Studio in Boulder, Colorado. I hope you enjoy our new free kids art workshop series, and if you do, be sure to like and subscribe. At any point during the workshop, hit that pause button when you're ready to work on your own projects. Come on back when you're ready. I won't move on without you. Now, let's get ready to make. If you've joined us for some of our previous workshops, you probably remember how we made felted palms out of wool roving, as well as palms like this made out of yarn. In today's workshop, I'm going to teach you how to use those same materials to create a pom garland, which is a piece of artwork that we can hang on the wall in our room or somewhere else in our house as a really beautiful decoration, where we'll add all the palms onto one piece of yarn to create a complete piece of artwork. Let's take a look at the materials that we'll need for today's workshop. In addition to yarn, we will also need wool roving that looks like this. We will be using scissors to cut our yarn, as well as tacky glue to attach our felted palms onto our pom garland. If you have a hot glue gun at home, that will also probably work. Tacky glue works really well. And the last thing we'll need is a bucket of warm soapy water to use with our wool roving for felting. I'm going to start by felting my palms that I would like to go on my garland using wool roving and a wet felting technique. The reason I'm starting with my palms, my felted palms, rather than my yarn palms, is because I want to give these a chance to dry a little bit before I attach them all together onto my garland. So, to felt palms, all I need is a bucket of warm soapy water. This bucket has a little bit of warm water in the bottom, and I'm going to take my dish soap and just do a squirt of dish soap in with that water. I'll mix it around, and as long as I have bubbles forming on the top, that is plenty of soap for this process. I'll take a little chunk of my felt, or of my roving, and depending on how much roving you have, that will affect the size of your palm. So I'm going to start with about this much roving and just put it in my hand and squeeze it together into a little bit of a ball or a sphere of roving. That's what I'm going for. I want this to turn into a nice dense ball of roving, which is going to be my felted palm. So I'm going to dip it in my soapy water, squeeze the water out, and then start just kind of rubbing it back and forth in my fingers. Now, if you'd like an overhead view of this process, check out our Dream Catcher workshop, where we felt palms towards the end of that workshop and have a nice overhead view of it. I might have added a little much soap because my soap is really sudsing up, but that's okay. If yours isn't as sudsy as mine, that's just fine too. Now that I've worked it in my fingers a little bit, I'm going to start rubbing it between my palms. Mine's a little extra slippery because of all that soap. I'll rinse it again in the water, squeeze the water out, and I'm just pushing my hands together and rubbing it between my palms. Whoops. Rolling it. I can redip and get more water anytime I need. Rolling it, rolling it. This usually takes a minute or two until my palm starts to really felt together and become a more dense kind of sphere. If you don't think yours is working, just keep going. Okay, mine's starting to come together. Let's take a look. I'm going to go get some fresh water to rinse my palm because mine's so soapy, but you can see that I have a nice felted palm already. I got a bucket of fresh water, just clean water with no soap in it, to rinse my palm. And I can just dip it in there and squeeze the water out a couple of times so that that soap kind of washes out. Now I have my first palm. I would like to make, I think maybe 6 or 7 palms for my Pom Garland today. So I'm going to keep making more palms of all different colors. You might like to choose a color scheme. I'm going to have a whole rainbow of colors on my garland. You are also welcome to get to work on yours, and I'll see you when you finish. Whew. My arms are tired after doing all that felting. Are you tired? You might want to spread out when you're making your felted spears, your felted palms, because truly that is pretty exhausting on your arms to do that many in a row. I just felted all of these palms and I'm really excited to include them in my garland. I'm going to take a moment to clean up my space a little bit with a towel. I should have mentioned that it would probably be helpful to have a towel on hand when we're working with wet material like this. And then I'm excited to show you how to next make your palms out of yarn. I have a few different colors of yarn here that I might work with today. If you have just one ball of yarn and you're working with all that color, it will look really neat to have the same color palms all across your Pom Garland. It is totally up to you if you change colors to have multiple colors or all the same color, up to you and the materials that you have at home. I am going to show you how to make one out of pink yarn because I think it might be easiest to see on the camera. So I'm starting by holding on to pinching one end of the yarn, and I'm going to spread my fingers out like this to make my yarn palm. The reason I'm going to do that is because I'm using my fingers, my hand, to wrap the yarn. You might also have a palm maker at home. Those are kind of fun to use, but this is also a really simple way to make a palm just using your hands. And I'm spreading my fingers out because I'm wrapping my fingers in this yarn using my hand as a tool. And because I'm pulling, my fingers are going to start squeezing together a little bit. And I need a space in between my fingers right here in the middle at the end in order to tie my palm together. So I start by, and if you're coordinated enough to make 2 go here and 2 fingers go here, that works also. I start by making sure my fingers are really spread apart. Oh, my ball of yarn just fell off the table. So that I have plenty of room for them to be squeezed together a little bit. Now I wrapped quite a lot. This is going to be kind of a big fluffy palm. I'll get my scissors, trim off that spot, and then I'm going to take a longer piece of yarn and tie it in the middle right here. So it probably would be helpful to grab your long piece of yarn before you wrap your fingers. Here's my piece of yarn. It's probably 15 inches or so. And then I'm going to tuck it in between my middle and my ring finger. And this would be really helpful to have someone help you with. I'm going to do it solo, but it would be really helpful to have a helper. And then you're going to tie a knot. And we're tying a square knot, which is the first step to tying your shoes twice. And if you watched our clay art workshop, you might have seen this technique already. I'm pulling it really nice and tight, and then doing that first step, tying my shoes again, pulling it really nice and tight. Okay, now it almost looks a little bit like a butterfly. I'm going to take it off my fingers, and I have all of these loops here and loops here. And I'll start with my scissors trimming the loops, or cutting the loops. what I want to be careful of is that I don't cut my long string. I'm going to need that to attach it to my garland later. So I just let that hang down and I'm cutting my loops, looking for more. And if a little piece of yarn comes out, no problem. If too many start pulling out, your knot isn't tight enough, so be careful that you don't accidentally pull too many out. Now, just like this, I have a pom. Now you can see this pom, I can still kind of see both sides of it. So the next thing you can do is give it a haircut if you'd like. And I'm gonna kind of spread it out a little bit and pinch it where that knot is, making sure that I'm holding onto these strings so that I don't accidentally trim them off. And I'm just gonna start giving it a haircut. I'm trying to make it kind of even all around, and this will make it rounder and just kind of fluffier. This process can take some time, and it's just totally up to you how you like the look of your pom. I'm looking at it, I kind of stop every once in a while and hold it away from my face so that I can kind of see if there's any longer spots that I still want to trim. Mine's getting pretty close. Now you can give your poms like a really big haircut and cut it really close to the center to get a really tight kind of fluffy pom where you can't even see the pieces of yarn. I'm not going to do that on my poms. I'm going to leave them kind of like these little starbursts, just because that's my personal preference. But you can play with it, and it's kind of fun to experiment with what happens the more you trim or the less you trim your yarn, your pom. Okay, I'm going to get started making more poms and would invite you to do the same. When we meet back together, I'll show you how we're going to attach our felted poms as well as our yarn poms onto your pom garland. Nice work. Now that you've made your poms, we are going to talk about attaching them all together onto your pom garland to complete your project. I was also just noticing I have all of these little trimmings from when I gave my poms that haircut, and I think they're pretty cool. They're fluffy little tiny pieces of yarn. I think they'd be kind of fun to use with some glue in like a collage project, so you might consider that. I'm just going to set mine to the side for now. Now, you should first choose what color yarn you would like to use as the string that's going to hang them all together. And then make sure that you choose or cut your yarn to big enough width of the size that you would like your garland. My garland's going to be about my wingspan, so I'm going to cut it to about the length of my arms all stretched out. Then I'll lay my yarn down for a moment, and I'm going to take each of my yarn poms that I made and tie an overhand knot where the two strings are that hang down from when I tied that on. And this is where I'm going to hang how I'm going to string my pom onto this pink string onto my garland. This is just extra string, so I'm going to trim that off, being careful not to trim too closely to the knot so that the knot doesn't fall out. And I'll do that with each of my poms. When you're tying these knots, you might like to tie some closer to the pom, like this one I tied really closely to the pom, so that it hangs a little bit shorter. This one will hang a little bit longer. So you can kind of vary the length of where those knots are if you'd like, for just some variation on the way your garland will hang. Okay. Now I also have my felted poms, and I'm going to be gluing those on later. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and string all of my yarn poms onto my piece of yarn by putting the yarn through that loop I just made by tying all those knots. You can always rearrange the placement. I like the way that's coming so far, green, white, and then pink. I still have a pink and a green left. I think I'm going to do the pink on this side so it's not next to the other pink. You are the artist. You get to decide. Totally up to you how you'd like to arrange your colors. This one, I somehow ended up with only one string on this one, so I'm just kind of tying an overhand knot to get a loop in that one string so that I can still hang it. Okay. Check it out. Next, I'm going to use tacky glue to glue my poms, my felted poms, in between each of my yarn poms, because I think that'll add just a lot of interest on my garland here. If you have another idea or another way that you would like to use your poms, like maybe you want to glue your felted poms on a separate garland and not include them in the one with the yarn poms, totally up to you. To glue the felted poms, tacky glue works really well, and I don't have it in front of me. You will just put a dot of tacky glue onto your felted pom and then push it right onto the yarn. Give it a couple minutes to dry before you pick it up and try to move it. As long as it's dry, if you give it long enough time to dry, it will stick really well from the pom to the yarn. All right, I'm going to work on putting mine together and then we'll see what the whole thing looks like in the end. Ta-da! Here is my pom garland. I hope that you enjoyed making yours today. These look awesome in any room of your house, truly. They make really great gifts too, and you could even just make single poms to add to a gift as a little embellishment or to your wrapping. There are all different ways that you can use these materials and these poms in particular. So I hope you find some more ways to make poms and enjoy. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see more of our free kids art workshops. We look forward to seeing you next time.